The second part, we're going to start talking about what it means to be at maintenance and what it means to have a maintenance requirement for animals. And maintenance is extremely important because that's the foundation we need to start with. This is the first nutrient priority for animals and is critical. We'll probably have a couple videos that will be dealing with maintenance. Maintenance defined, the maintenance requirement defined is that quantity of nutrients needed to maintain normal body function. So maintenance is that quantity of nutrients. That's needed to maintain normal body function. So we're going to define normal as all the processes in the body that are vital for life. And this includes breathing and heartbeat, ion transport across cell membranes, the actual functions of digestion, absorption, and metabolism. Some of the physical activity, it's minimal in physical activity, but just maintaining a constant body temperature. Those types of things are considered normal life processes, and the maintenance requirement needs to support all of those. Maintenance does not include nutrients needed for production. Once we start asking animals to do growth, gestate, produce milk, eggs, meat, wool, or anything like that, or do work, especially in the case of performance horses or even some of the working dogs, then we're exceeding that maintenance requirement. And those requirements are going to be in addition to what the animal needs for maintenance. And so production requirements of any kind are additional. They're added on top of the maintenance requirement. Those two together, maintenance plus production requirements, equals the total nutrient requirements for that animal. All animals have a maintenance requirement. And so that is just that minimum threshold to survive. And the maintenance requirement actually makes up a greater proportion of total requirements when the animal is in a less productive state. Which, if you think about it, let's kind of draw a little image here real quick. If we have a beef cow, okay, when she has just weaned her calf, her body is going to be healing a little bit, but she's going to have most of her requirements is going to be maintenance. There's going to be a little bit of it. Hang on. That'll be for production. However, once she has a calf again, we'll see that her requirements increase and the maintenance is still the same. It's only a certain proportion. However, she now has a whole bunch of additional requirements for lactation and production. And so when she's in a lower nutrient state, such as right here, on that first image that I drew, maintenance is going to make up a total proportion of her total requirements. However, when she enters a higher production state, maintenance makes up a smaller proportion or a smaller percentage of those total requirements. The more productive the animal, the less maintenance is going to cost us. Okay, and so we want productive animals because then maintenance is a smaller proportion of those nutrient requirements. It's not going to cost us as much, and we're going to be seeing if animals are in production, maintenance is a lower proportion of those requirements. It makes the whole system more efficient. When we talk about an animal being at maintenance, this is an animal that's not growing, not pregnant, not producing milk. So they are an open beef cow that's not really pregnant or maybe even in the first trimester, but not heavy nutrient requirements going to pregnancy. They're not performing forced exercise, and what we mean by that is, say, horses that are in training for certain events, they're forced exercise. However, a horse that's retired that just spends his time out in pasture, he is not going through any kind of forced exercise. And so, for most practical purposes, the only livestock that are ever really at maintenance is the inactive adult horse, the retired horse. pasture potatoes instead of couch potatoes, or sometimes yard art. You hear it called a few things, but they're those they are probably the only animals we really have truly at maintenance. Most of our food-producing animals, beef, sheep, goats, dairy, are always slightly above maintenance no matter what stage of production they're at. Because if they're not if they're not lactating, they usually are pregnant. Mature goats and sheep, if they might have a period that they are truly at maintenance as well. But essentially, senior horses are usually about it. Most everything else does have some sort of production and maintenance requirement. The goal for feeding an animal at maintenance is a zero balance. We don't want them to gain or lose any nutrients from their body. We're feeding them to maintain health and a consistent body weight. We want them to just maintain their current status. Even though a few animals are fed at maintenance, the requirement is still very important to understand that concept. And feed costs money. We've been talking about that since the semester began, that feed costs are over 50% of the production cost for most producers. We've talked about how to evaluate feeds on a cost per pound of nutrient basis. So it's expensive. And so if we can have animals put more nutrients into production and less into maintenance, that animal is going to be more cost effective, more financially efficient. And that's going to help the producer maintain profitability and be able to stay in business. Got to be able to get those nutrients into production. And so if we take a look at that visual, we want to be shifting them this direction. This is the direction we want to go. We don't want as much going to maintenance. We want to support maintenance, absolutely, but we want to keep our animals productive so that we can promote cost effectiveness. That wraps up this first video for maintenance. There will be 2 more videos on maintenance.